Okay, so mechbox disassembly. There's a couple of hex screws down here. Pop them out. Well, that's the hammer. It's pretty sloppy. But there's a couple of pins here. Punch them out. There we go. Quite tight. So I'm expecting that to nearly there. So I'll just do a bit of investigating as to why I can't quite pull that out. We'll be back. Okay, so it just turned out it just needed a bit of a good pull to get it to this point, like that. But then this part stops it from, you can't get it quite out, so I'm not really sure what to do next, other than possibly I'm going to take this pin out, and then I might have to take that out as well, and then maybe that'll pull through and then the whole lot will come away. Don't know. We'll see what happens. Push that out. Try not to lose the pin. That's done something. Which has definitely helped. And now it's this split pin here. Probably have to tap that through, I think. Like the look of doing this. Let's see. Feels like I don't really want to do that. Feels like that's going to break. But I can't see how we get that out any other way. So yeah, I think that pin probably has to be tapped out. Let's try. Not liking that. I feel like it's going to break. Might try it with some pliers. Nope. So we can get it to here, and then we're struggling. because it's catching in there, and there's no way that's going to come through there. Not without that pin coming out. Well, to be fair, to have a look at all the rest of it, I might not actually need to take all that out. Let's see. So let's punch this one out. Let's do what looks like. Where's the hammer pivoting? Hammer's pivoting around this one. Let's take this one out. Maybe we can get the hammer out. I think the hammer spring might have snapped actually. Possibly. Not sure. Pop this one out. Just show it to the camera so I can try and remember how it goes. Yeah, that's on something. Does that want to come out? Let's pop this pin out as well. Alright, so that was like that. Bit gunky. That pin, that was on that side, and that went against that pin when it was through to give it some tension. So I've got that bit out. So I should be able to get the hammer out now. Let's see. It'll come out. Yep. Pretty greasy. It's a bit like the LM4 hammers in that. Oh, can I get this out? This is a pain. I'll get one of these guides maybe. Back in for a sec. So in here, that's not working right now with that. So interesting way the valve knocker's been done. It's got a nice big area to hit rather than it getting worn like it can do. Right, so that's the valve knocker, that goes in, the bolt comes back, hits, oh, I can see this properly, I might bring it up to the camera, there we go, lock the focus. Right, so that's your valve knocker, that's the other side of it, so the hammer hits the back of there, and this piece here is what locks the valve knocker in place to keep the gas flowing while the bolt's moving back, and then when that gets pushed down by the bolt, it's not working brilliantly like this, but effectively, if I can do it, that then I'll do it again. So that's been hit by the hammer, bang, you know, fires a bellet, bolt starts recoiling, catches that, and in doing so, that then springs, not that much back, but that's effectively springs back and releases the gas, ready for the next hammer strike. So that's how all that bit works. Yeah, and what can happen over time is this, the bit that locks on here, especially on poorer made guns, it looks like it's a pin in this, but this thing doesn't lock, so when that gets smashed forwards into the gas valve, it starts letting a lot of gas out of the mag. But if this catcher piece that locks it in place is worn, then it can, instead of it staying like that, it can end up like that and almost cutting the gas supply off for the recoil stroke, and then it's just rubbish. You know, there's actually, is that definitely, that's it in the right place, isn't it? Yeah, and if I do that, I'm tempted. I mean, even that's quite a lot of valve knocker movement. So you'll get maybe one recoil out of it, maybe, if you're lucky, but it should really stay tight to there until that is pushed down and then it's released. But I know it doesn't look very much. Let's get it in place. Can't do it now. There we go. But that, you can see it there actually. That amount of rock is enough to cut off quite a bit of gas supply out of a mag. So maybe it's not the hammer spring, maybe it's this. Okay, so how's that going to focus? So I sort of went for the brave approach in the end and pushed this as far back in as I could, and I just smacked it with a hammer, and that's the orientation of the spring. It needs to go back in, so I'm just going to pull the rest of the pin out now. So this, I suspect, is steel. Have I got a magnet anywhere? I'll just find a magnet. So these normally, on lower end guns, these bits that lock the valve knocker are never made out of steel, and they wear really quick, and then that's why you end up with crap performance, crap blowback and everything else. So this slots in there. There's a spring down there, slots in here, and on this piece, I don't know if I can swing it all. Let's take this pin out, and you can see. So you can see that on that side, so this is the valve lock, so it's quite nice. It's got a massive piece to hit. It's quite a substantial valve knocker. That's pretty good. So you've got this pin that goes through. Now, I would guess it's come like that from factory. can see, I mean, obviously, definitely, because it's flattened off on that side, and the hole's flattened off, so that pin is like that. And you can see that what it does is it sits, when this thing comes up and locks, it sits in there, and then when it goes that way, it allows it to spring back. That's what cuts. So when that thing's up in its position and holding it, that's what keeps the gas supply going till the bolt comes back and catches this piece and pushes it down, and then it allows that bit to go back into the second notch like that, and that will cut off the gas supply from the mag into the bolt and the blowback action. I'll shove that back in. Okay, so I've got that back in now. Spring goes like that. Not that it's putting a massive amount of tension on there, to be honest, but it's there. Just want to, and you can see that it's the bit that moves forwards and backwards and is kept in place. Drop the spring back down the guide. Drop this back in there. So you're going to go in. Okie dokie, so it's all back in, so you can see how this works now. Hammer so bolt goes back, releases the gas pin off the mag being here, it hit the gas valve. Pull the trigger, hammer pivots forward, knocks that onto the gas valve on the mag, and I don't know if you saw it, but this piece flicked up and it keeps it in that lock position until there's enough gas gone to fire the pellet and start to do the blowback action, and as the bolt comes back and hits this piece, it pushes it down, not that far, and you see this thing springs back. So yeah, there's quite a bit of wobble in that, to be fair. I mean, you might be thinking, oh, it's not moving much, but probably not moving. That is moving enough to cut off a fair chunk of gas supply from the mag to the blowback action. So it's tempting. Look in there. Doesn't really look worn, but I wouldn't expect it to be because it's steel. That pin doesn't look particularly worn either. And it looks as per factory, basically. This doesn't look massively worn either. So yeah, to improve the blowback performance a little bit, it is tempting to maybe either put a tin, something tiny in there. You're talking like a mil thick in there, to reinforce it, or where's we gone? Unless that pin was... nah, it could have been. Maybe that pin was catching on something. It's a bit loose. Maybe that was catching on the hammer and causing problems with the... So sorry, you can't see. So maybe this pin, it seems to push in and out pretty easily. Maybe that was out and grinding on the hammer and stopping it coming back at full speed. I don't know, might push that in and put a bit of thread lock on it and tap it back in. But just to stop any... Actually, having said that, I just push that right... I mean, this is how tiny the tolerances are on some of these gas guns. Just push that into there. Let's get it to focus. Go on. Possibly there's a chunk of wear off there that's causing that slight bit of play in the gas mechanism. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm not really sure how I'm going to reinforce that. Might have some bit of steel that I can put on there, perhaps. Just reinforce it a bit. And just build it up, maybe a mil. And that'll at least stop the pin, you know, stop this, stop the wobble when it's supposed to be dead forward. Let's try that again. So it's like, you know, nice hardened steel for this piece, and then crappy metal for that pin that's going through there. Let's just pull this back. So there we go. So just that teeny tolerance. In you go. That's quite a lot of play, because it's because the pivots down here. That tiny bit of play means that moves, well, whatever that is. It's not going to be easy to measure, but it's kind of like from there. It's kind of like the width of this flange, which is well, look at that. Mitutoyo calipers, and then looking at it through a phone camera, judging it by eye. But it's the width of that flange, at least. So it's causing a mil. Let's put that to... I mean, this is not an exact science at all. This, I'll try and hold this steady. So it's set at 5.1. Can't do it, but it's about a mil of travel, and that is enough. Well, you can sort of see, actually, if I put that there, that is, it's not 2 mil. Possibly about a mil of valve knocker travel, maybe a bit more. That won't be helping. Okay, so we've built that pin up with a combination of, I'm going to focus, steel wire. Why is it not focusing? There we go, steel wire. It's not amazing. And some solder, but what I also have is this stuff. I'll zoom out. So it's reinforcing filling powder. So it's kind of like got steel powder in some kind of base that's activated by really thin cyanoacrylate, so super glue material. So I'm going to build it up with a bit of that, and it's absolutely rock hard, this stuff. It's basically like a sintered powder, and I'll use that and fill what's left on there and then grind it and shape it. So we'll do that. Okay, so there that is now. It's built up with that powder as well, and then ground. So as steel wire, steel reinforced powder, and then it's soldered as well, so it's about as good as you're going to get, I think. So I've bent this hammer spring a little bit. I'll just put some extra kinks on here to put a little bit more tension from that side, and bent this round, not amazingly on that side, around the hammer, just to remove a little bit of the wobble, so that should all help. And now you can see with it in its lock position, virtually no movement at all on that. One thing to do if you do that, you've got to make sure if you put too much on that pin, it won't actually go forward enough to drop into the recess because the pin's too big. So you've got to check that it actually won't pull back, and then if you push that down, it's back into its secondary position there. So yeah, if you push it forwards and the thing doesn't spring up like that, then you've put too much on the pin and it won't engage and lock it. Anyway, that's spot on that. Okay, so it's all back together again now. I've got the hammer, so that pre-engages it there, and that's what the trigger bar engages. Back like that. Okay, so we'll can reassemble it all now. So first thing we need to do is put this piece in here along with that. There we go. And then this starts to go in here. And then you've got, well actually we'll do it this way around, you've got to drop this piece through first. So we'll drop this into here. Or you can push it up through from this end. I'll do it that way, it's a bit easier. No, sorry, I've got to push it down from the top. Just put that through there, like so. Right, now we can start to assemble everything. That goes through there, and like that. This is a bit faffy. Now this piece, the valve knocker, used to go up through here. Let's grab a pair of pliers. Down there, and then just get the valve knocker through like that. There we go. And then push this spring over. this piece down as well, so that it can go forwards like that. It's a little bit faffy, as you can see. Let's just do that again. So I'll pop the release. Get that brass pin flush. So it isn't flush right now. There we go. Push that spring over again. Like so. And then get that into there. There we go. Lovely. Get that aligned. Pin through. Oh, it's just moved. Let's get it lined up again. There we go. So that's the first bit in, and we're sorted. Right. So next bit is the hammer. Always in this nice case, so it just slides straight up. Get it in the right place. Put that pin through. Then the sort of the sear block, I guess, and then goes in like this. With the spring that way. And just shove it up to there. Put that pin through. Nearly done. Where's my last pin? There. Just get that one started. Just have it just come through just a little bit. And grab. In fact, it's a bit easier if you cock the hammer on this. You can reach down and do it. Perhaps can't do it unless you've got a spring in place. So let's get this spring right around. Put that around like that. And you see it's quite happy springing its way back again. There we go, get it over that. Oh, yeah. There you go. There we go. Right, and then that just pushes all the way back in there like that. Hammer should now lock. Yes, it does. Got this release there, and then your trigger should go in there normally. Lovely. And that release there should spring the valve locker back. Yes, it does. forward. Yeah, there we go. Lovely. And pull it forward. Let's bring that back. There we go. So that's in the prime position. Valve knocker back. Pull the trigger. Let's do it this way around. Perfect. Less wobble on the hammer. In fact, no wobble really on the hammer now compared to before. It was really sloppy. And the valve knocker doesn't really move at all, whereas it was moving about a mil before. Quite happy with that. I'll put that back together. The last bit to do is this spring on there, which I'll do in the next video because I can't quite remember which way around that went. I suspect probably something like that. I'm not sure. Yeah, we'll put it all back together. So number one. Where's the one gone? Just put this screw in here. Like that. And then we've got out of the 3 pins left. Short one, 2 long ones. Long ones. Let's go in there. And we're done.